So if you remember in a Docker Hub exercise, what we did was we created a custom Docker image. Then using Docker file, we built that image using Docker build command. We added some tag and all, and then we pushed that image to container registry called Docker Hub. Okay, and then from Docker Hub we can give that image to everyone or anyone, and we can just download that image using Docker pull or directly run that image using Docker run. So that is the container registry provided by Docker Hub. But in case if we want on our on premises that we have our own means on custom container registry, we can have it, and that we can have using the vanilla container registry. What does this vanilla means? Vanilla means the unmodified one version of the container registry. So even Docker Hub has used this vanilla Docker container registry, but they have added some extra layers on it, like GUI and some role-based access systems and all that is not available in the unmodified version of this Docker container. So this is the open source Docker container registry available, which can be used for means, learning purpose only. Okay, it doesn't have all the features like GUI and proper role-based access system. Okay, but in case we want in our on-prem premises for testing purpose or for the just the development purpose, for non-development purpose we can use it. Okay, so what we will do this in this exercise is we'll create two VMs. Okay, in my case the IP address is 1.10 and 1.11. So what you all do is just start creating one more VM. Okay, using your old cloned VM. So I've already created a registry.example.com. The DevOps VM we already have. Okay. So just you all decide what is the IP address you want to give it. Actually, you don't need to give it. It will get it automatically using DHCP. So for me, the VM one is registry.example.com. That is the new VM which has the IP address 1.10, and the VM2 is DevOps VM which we use every day, which has an IP address of 1.11. Okay. So I've created these two VMs and I have logged in into it. So we need to set the host name to this system. So the command would be sudo hostnamectl set hostname, okay, registry dot example.com. So if you check with the hostname command, we can see it has an example host name as uh, registry.example.com. Just do control D, okay, and log in again. So the changes will reflect, and you can see at the left hand side it has registry word. Similarly, we can set the host name for the other VM. It may be already there, host name CTL, set host name DevOps VM dot example.com. Okay. Check with the hostname command, and we can see it has an IP. It has the hostname as devopsvm.example.com. You may need to add sudo here if it doesn't work, or you'll have to provide the password. Okay, both the VMs have IP addresses now, IP addresses and hostname, and we need to make an entry in cat/etc host. Okay, for that what we will do is we'll just log in as a root using sudo su on both the systems, and in cat/etc hosts make these two entries. Okay, so it should have only these three lines. I've already made these entries. So what I did is I just added two entries, 1.10 and 1.11. That registry.example.com IP address is 1.10, and devopsvm.example.com IP address is 1.11. Okay, similarly make the same entries in on the other VM as well, cat/etc hosts. Okay, 1.10 pointing to registry.example.com, 1.11 pointing to devopsvm.example.com. So if we ping with the host name, it will resolve properly the IP address. Okay, that is the main aim of this, adding it in /etc host on both the systems. So we are just testing if the ping is working properly. So the ping works. And this is registry.example.com. Okay. So on both the systems, we have set the host name, and just log out of the root. Will perform exercise using non-root user. On both the systems, we have made an entry in /etc/host, and also we have set the host name for both the VMs. Now on registry.example.com VM, we will just run the container. Okay, and that container will be Docker registry container. So I'll explain this command. So what we are doing is we are downloading a registry. Okay, the container image name is registry. Okay, which will create a container which will have a name Docker registry. Okay, so if you search for registry in Docker Hub, we'll definitely get a registry latest image. That image we are using for creating a Docker container registry, and here we are using a new option called restart always. Hyphen restart equal to always will make this container run even after the VM restart. So what happens by default is, when if we do not use hyphen restart, when the container restarts, okay, when the VM restarts, the container will be in stop state until we start it. But with hyphen restart always, the container will always remain started even after DevOps VM reboot. Okay, so what we are doing here is we are running the container in a detached mode. Okay, by default registry runs on port 5000, but in this example we are mapping it on port 80 of this VM. Okay, will always will make it sure that even after the VM restart, it remains up, the container remains up. The container name is Docker registry, and we are downloading the image called registry. Okay, and just press enter. It didn't find the image locally, so it's downloading from the but just a minute, I made a mistake. Okay, I'll just cancel it. We have to run it on registry.example.com, not on DevOps VM. Sudo docker ps. Okay, nothing is created. Sudo docker rm docker images. I've already done the cleanup. I'm again doing it because it should be installed on other VM. Okay, so on DevOps VM, we do not have anything. Sudo docker ps -a and sudo docker images. Similarly, on registry.example.com, sudo docker images. Even sudo is not there, so as it is a new VM, we'll have to install apt-get install -y docker.io, and sometimes we need to update as well, apt-get update. Okay, so we are installing docker.io on registry.example.com, and after that we'll run that container image of registry. Okay, so the Docker is installed now. If you see sudo docker ps-a, nothing is there. Even images, there are no images. It's a default installation. Now we'll just run that command, docker run in a detached mode. Registry runs on port 5000 inside the container. We are mapping it on port 80 on this host, that is registry VM. Restart always will make sure that even after the VM restart, the container remains up. The container name is docker registry, and we are using the image registry. Okay, just press enter and it will start downloading the image. Okay. So if we check now sudo docker ps, the container is running. Okay, it is mapped to port 80. We can also map to port 5000. Okay, but in this case, to make it very simple, we have mapped it on port 80 so that when we create the image name, we have to give the registry name, and with port 5000, it doesn't look good. Okay, and we get confused. That's why I mapped it on port 80 itself. Okay, so the container is running. So we have installed Docker Container Registry. Now we just need to create our custom image and push it to this container imagery. Okay, for that we'll use our DevOps VM. We can use this VM itself, but let's have a proper POC. So in order to test the connectivity that the whatever we have installed is proper, we do not have a GUI. Okay, so what we will do is we'll just run with this command. Okay, it is checking if the connectivity is okay between the registry container. Okay, and if we as it's running on port 80, we do not need to give port 80 here, and HTTP response 200 means okay. Okay, similarly, let's check it from the other VM, like that is DevOps VM, and it will resolve using the host name, as we have mapped the host name and IP in the /etc host. So when we do curl on registry.example.com, version 2 means we are using the version 2 of registry, and here okay means 2000 response means it's the connectivity is okay. Okay, now on DevOps VM itself we'll create an image. So for that I'm creating an app directory. Inside an app directory, mkdir app on DevOps VM itself, so it already exists. I'll remove it. Mkdir app, and inside app we'll create two files. One is index.html, and other one is docker file. We are creating a custom image using docker file and index.html. So the contents are simple. So here we are, what we are doing is downloading the Nginx latest image. Okay, whatever we store inside USR share Nginx, that is we'll copy index.html in USR share and we'll start the container. We'll start the daemon inside the container, that is using Nginx. So this is very simple file. What we'll do is just run docker build command and give it a tag. The only difference is the naming convention. So what we are doing here is, so we know that registry.example.com is our container registry. So we'll give the name of the container registry /app. Okay, so the name what we are giving to the container is app1 container image. Okay, the docker image will be created with app1 and this is the version 1. Okay, and just add dot means search for a docker file in the current location and just press enter. Okay, so it is downloading the Nginx, then it will copy index.html at this location inside the container and will start the Nginx daemon. Okay, so if we check now sudo docker images, we have created registry.example.com/app version 1. Now what we need to do is we just need to push this image to container registry. The name of the container registry is already in the image. Okay, so when we do docker push, okay, and press enter. Okay, actually for the previous batch I have used this VM. So okay, so ignore this.
So you want to push from registry to DevOps or DevOps to registry? DevOps
Check
to
my
registry.
check my screen. What is here?
DevOps.
We can do it on the same system itself. That not problem. But for demo purpose, we should do it from the system, which is not the registry. So by default, it doesn't work, but it was working for you when I did the push. Okay. So now when I do push, so it is saying connection refused. Okay. This should happen. This will happen to you as well. So why it is saying connection refused? Because we are not using an HTTPS. Okay. And by default it expects that it should use the HTTPS. Okay, but for the demo purpose will make it insecure. Okay, this is not recommended in production, but for demo purpose what we will do is we'll not run it on port 443, just on port 80. For that, just log in as a root and we'll create one file, and the file name is this one. This is the new file which we are creating. So in this, what we are mentioning is we will be using a registry.example.com registry, and it is insecure. Okay, this is not recommended in production, only for demo purpose I'm showing it, that it should be that allow it even if it is insecure. Okay, we are defining that allow the insecure registry.example.com, but after this it's necessary that we restart the docker container, docker daemon. Okay, and cross check that the docker is running properly. Again, sometimes after making changes it may not work properly. So q to exit. So active running means it is running, just log out. Okay, earlier if you see there was an error, connection refused. Now if I do docker push, okay, it is working. But it's working because we have allowed as insecure, otherwise we'll have to do the SSL configuration. And it doesn't have a back access system, role based access system. That's why it didn't even ask us for docker login. But on from most of the container registries it will ask docker login before pushing it, as it is our in intranet. Okay, and for demo purpose it didn't ask us for the authentication. So on top of it we can add authentication and all. Okay, the docker hub has already done it. That's why it asks us for docker login. So we have done the docker push, but we do not have GUI. How to test it if the push is properly done? Okay, so we can check its catalog. Okay, internally it maintains a catalog, that is the list of the repositories. So if we just do curl version 2 catalog, connectivity is okay, and it is showing a repository is created with app1. Okay, so the same command will work on the registry as well. Okay, so this exercise we could have done on DevOps VM as well, but I just wanted to show that we can have a separate VM where we can store all the container images locally. Okay, the only thing is while creating the container registry we have to give the name itself in the image. So this is the syntax we should use. And now let's test that the image we can pull. Okay, so what we'll have to do is just go to Docker images and make sure we do not have anything here. So we'll remove it for demo purpose. RMI-F. Let me check if the container is running any. So no containers are running. So we can remove the images. Sudo docker RMI will remove both the images. So if you see, no container is running and there is no images as well. Now we just curled and check the catalog. We have app1. Okay, so what we will do is sudo docker run. We can directly run in a detached mode. Map it on port 8081. Okay, inside the container it is running on port 80. Okay, the app1, give the complete name registry.example.com slash app1 colon version 1. Okay, and just press enter. Okay, it didn't find the image locally, so it is pulling from this registry.example.com. Okay, and when the pull is complete, the docker run does both pull and run. And now it started the container. So if you see sudo docker ps, now the container is running on port 8081, and just to curl localhost 8081. Okay, so we have pulled the image from container registry. So if you have any question, let me know.